All right, everyone. Steve Metrics here of Db8 Sports, waiting on my partner DJ TRIGGS to join us here shortly. He'll be here with us. He's a little caught up in traffic, but we are here. It is the final week of the NFL season, the whole shebang, the whole season. Super Bowl week is here, and we are here on the final game between the Niners and the Chiefs and looking to see who we really think is going to win this game and why. And do you want to place a bet on this game as well? It is pretty wild what's going on with betting, sports betting in general, in this nation. It's really, really cool. Got to be responsible with it. But the crazy thing with this is definitely the numbers, and definitely with especially what I love. I love numbers. I love the math. I love seeing this kind of stuff, and I definitely know that it's growing and that it's popular, and more states are definitely in the game of welcoming sports betting. But I didn't think it would be actually this big. The math today suggests from a report I saw posted. I think you can see this on ESPN. So if you pull up their mobile app or go to their website, you should be able to see this. But they project 1 out of every 6 people in the United States of America is going to be betting on the Super Bowl. Already right there, to me, that's mind blowing. That is crazy, crazy stuff. I could see maybe like 1 out of 8, maybe 1 out of 10, but now it's shifting to 1 out of 6, and that's everybody. That's adults, that's kids, whoever it is who's ever doing it. It's 1 out of 6. But when you look at adults, it's even greater. And when it comes to adults, it's 1 out of every 4. So, like, that right there is crazy, crazy stats. And we'll be getting into it later tonight. So, I certainly have my feelings about the game and my sports bets on where I think that this is going to happen and why I think it is wise to bet in this manner. And that's definitely something we've got to talk about. And I think the biggest thing that you want to talk about when it comes to a game like this are 2 things. And I really like this. And I've been thinking about this lately when it comes to analytics and what I want to look at moving forward, especially with the things that we want to bring up analytically with Db8 Sports moving forward, is something that looks at the last 3 previous games. I think recency bias when it comes to the NFL is incredibly important. I think too often than not, and when we look at things like MVP, or do we think this team is really strong on defense or offense, I think too much of what we put into it is what we see throughout the season, right? And what we need are those moments where we notice if a team is missing something, or if we notice that something is happening within a small sample size and there isn't much that we can find schematically that can, I guess, identify what's going on, then having that recency bias of, okay, there's something dramatically changing in the last games of XYZ. We don't really know what it is, but we know it is there. That is important to identify. And maybe through that, we can start to dig on where those clues are and what those other things are that we should be looking for. I think that really helps out. And I even think, too, if we were to look back on this end of the season and really look at how a team like the Philadelphia Eagles completely fell flat towards the end, I think something with that kind of recency bias could really help project and really identify what in the world is going on with some of these teams. And to me, I think when it comes to recency bias with especially what's going on lately. I think that this is actually relevant with both teams, but in opposite directions. So I think when it comes to recency bias, I think we're seeing negative things, especially with the San Francisco 49ers. And I think we're seeing a lot of positive things actually with the Kansas City Chiefs. And obviously, being a Raider, I don't want to say that. But for a lot of this season, I can tell you this, that I've seen a good amount of the Kansas City Chiefs, and I haven't thought too highly about them throughout the season. I've definitely seen chinks in their armor, and I've definitely seen them being vulnerable at times, legitimately. But the thing is over the last 3 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks, 5 weeks, I mean, do you really want to call week 18 a week when you've already clinched a playoff position? Possibly not. But when you look at things like that, you can really tell yourself that things for Kansas City have drastically shifted over those last 5 weeks, not counting week 18, in a very positive direction. They've basically taken those chinks in the armor and they've buffed them out. So when it comes to things on offense, they've greatly improved on those things. On defense, I'll be honest, when it comes to the defenses in the NFL, I really only think of two defenses that are really at the top of the top. And I know everyone wants to point out Baltimore, but we just saw what Kansas City did. And I'll be honest, I watched maybe about a handful of Baltimore Raven games this year. And really, when it's all said and done, I was just not impressed with that football team. Yes, they should have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs, but there's a reason they didn't. And I think that reason is more internal than it is external in a way. And I definitely want to talk about that more too. But when you look at the Chiefs, their defense is fantastic. And I think their defense, along with our defense of the Las Vegas Raiders, and then going cross conference, I think the other great defense in the NFL that isn't really recognized as much, and I think just totally skyrocketed to the absolute top of the NFL from being in the cellar, in the basement of the NFL, is the Minnesota Vikings. So Minnesota, Kansas City, Las Vegas. If you're really looking at defenses going into next season, those three. And plus the value you can get on probably all of those three, I would hope is better than what other people are thinking moving forward. I mean, there are definitely going to be sneaky good defenses, but it's now time for us to move on and say that those defenses at the top that we all identified, and they were all NFC teams of San Francisco, Dallas, and Philadelphia, are no more. They're just not. They're done. Their time at the top. Players have moved on. Coaches have moved on, even more importantly. But that culture, that what they have is gone. And that's what I felt like when I talk about Baltimore, is that they have, when they are at their best, the entire team buys in. And I know both the Green Bay Packers and the Baltimore Ravens, neither of these teams really designate full-time season captains, and you won't see the captain patch on any of these players. And I personally, I don't like that at all. But it does make me really wonder why they don't have captains on these teams. More so with Baltimore than Green Bay, but I think Green Bay needs to adapt it as well. I think all the teams need to adapt it, and that's why 30 of the 32 actually do. But when you look at this and you see what's going on, it's that the Ravens, to me, still have this me culture in certain positions, whereas on the defense, they don't. The defense, to me, I think, is more together. They may have their problems in the secondary. I think their front line is pretty solid. Probably their linebacker core is pretty solid. There is a player on the Ravens, I forgot his name. He is actually Ray Lewis's favorite defensive player, and he's probably my favorite defensive player too. Watch this guy. This guy is everywhere on the field. He is basically that Charles Woodson, Micah Hyde kind of player, and he is a blast to watch, total blast to watch. So I think that's what's going on here. And I like that. But when it comes to the offensive side of the ball, I think you have too many divas, too many guys who think that it's about them. And that's never the case when the Ravens are truly at their best. And honestly, we have not seen that ever in the Lamar Jackson era. We have seen it in the Joe Flacco era, and we saw it in the Elvis Grbac era. He was the guy after. The coach, is it Matt? No, it's not Matt Hasselbeck. I'm blanking on the guy's name, but we've seen this guy. He's on ESPN quite a bit. He's actually now a high school football coach, I believe, and pretty cool guy. So that was when everyone on like Tony Siragusa, Shannon Sharp, like those guys are the Baltimore Ravens that really hold that glue together, and that's when everyone buys in. And I think the Ravens really need to bring that culture back. And right now on the offensive side of the ball, it does not exist. So I think that's a real problem going on with them, where you look at the Chiefs, and in a way, they may have had that go on during the regular season, but now it's gone. I mean, we saw Kadarius Toney line up on the wrong side. We saw Travis Kelce lose his cool. We saw Travis Kelce get into fights in the preseason, in training camp. We've seen Mahomes lose his cool multiple times in the early part of the season. But now in the second half to late part of the season, ever since really the Chiefs lost to the Raiders, they really started to click. There's really something there where they're really developing in a really good way. So it's more like a good team in a way, almost becoming a great team. And I mean, there's no other teams out there in the NFL right now. It is the Chiefs and the Niners. That's it. All you have to do is be the best you can be and beat that final team in front of you. That's it. That gets you a trophy. That gets you the distance of where you need to be. So I really like what's going on with the Chiefs. And there's some really things that I think when we look at what's going on is going on there. And I think the Chiefs have some really good momentum in their favor that I definitely want to talk about a little bit later tonight. But when we look at the Niners, it's more of the opposite. So this is a team that last time we saw them play against a really good team on defense and offense, they actually played those Baltimore Ravens, and they got smoked. The game wasn't even close. It was pretty lopsided from the get-go. And they had, I want to say, all of their components on offense. They may have had no Deebo Samuel, but he really didn't look like that was going to change much. It just looked like it was such a one-sided game that the preparedness of the San Francisco 49ers, it just wasn't there. And when it comes to 2 weeks, it does come from some of that learning experience from losing that Super Bowl 4 years ago. But it just looks that, to me, I think there's so many things going on with the Chiefs now that the 49ers, to me, they're just not going to be able to cut it. And I don't necessarily think this game could be a blowout. I kind of get the feeling it's going to be close, but I still feel like it's going to be like San Francisco mounts like a comeback in desperation. And I think it's just going to come up short, kind of like it did 4 years ago. there are pieces that I know for Kansas City, they lost an edge rusher, they lost an offensive lineman. But to me, I think they can absolutely overcome them. This team is so well run, and I heard Colin Cowherd say this, that you want to have your. It sounds like a crazy idea, but you want to have a head coach. You want to have a GM. You want to have an owner own, and you want to have quarterbacks and other players play because they're players. And I think Kansas City, especially navigating their way through a roster with a massive salary hit on Mahomes' contract, the way they're building this team is very impressive. I thought this was a year that you could actually strike Kansas City because they don't have as many chips on offense as they do on defense. And all of these things, to be honest, are still expensive. Defenses and offensive lines are probably combined really, really expensive, as well as the quarterback. I think when it comes to your running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, kickers, other special teams jank, that to me, I think that's very affordable. But when it comes to the really, really heavy hitting positions on defense, the line, certain shutdown corners, and really making sure that your quarterback is protected, I think that stuff is incredibly expensive. So seeing what Kansas City has been able to do to really build that up and go young on the offensive line, and that defense is just insane. The way I think we're seeing, like, here's the thing that I look at with Kansas City is flat out they have the greatest offensive minded head coach, and they probably have the greatest defensive minded head coach in the NFL. So they have both sides of the ball completely locked down, and their GM is really navigating that Mahomes contract and doing a great job. They have players who have bought in. Mahomes is a great leader, and like now even the wide receivers are stepping up and making great plays. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is really making some big catches, and especially when he had his heart broken from the Philadelphia game, and even the Green Bay Packer game. Both of those had to have struck a nerve in him. So there's just this really beautiful story and pathway that the Chiefs have navigated to make it so, like, they look so poised and they are so prepared going into this game. They have the experience. They're When it comes to a Super Bowl, regardless, you're going to have jitters when you're fresh and new into it. I think guys like Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes don't. They've been to it so many times. They're familiar with it. They're used to it. I think they are incredibly comfortable at how they're going to work this game. But I think a guy like Brock Purdy is not. And I think that there's definitely going to be that trepidation, or they're going to come out swinging straight out of the gates, just like the Detroit Lions did against San Francisco. But also, what's to say that Kansas City doesn't either? So I think that's a lot of good things that are going for the Kansas City Chiefs. So we have all those things going on there, and we'll see what happens. But San Francisco, for being a team that was so great on defense, allegedly during the season, they are not playing good defense now. And both Green Bay and Detroit, in all honesty, should have pretty much won those games against San Francisco. And basically, San Francisco has only played good in 2 out of 8 quarters in this postseason. So now you're going to have to play against a Mahomes team that is starting to click, and a defense that is the best in the NFL. I mean, let's really call it what it is. The only other 2 teams in the NFL that I think are as good or better than Kansas City didn't even make the playoffs. They just did not make the playoffs at all this season. So yeah, that's a lot of things going in the favor of the Kansas City Chiefs, and I just I think this is going to be really, really tough to compete against for the San Francisco 49ers. It, the thing is, too, like, if San Francisco can play this entire game without losing really any piece on offense, I think it's going to be not necessarily incredible, but to me, I don't think they're going to make it through this game completely healthy. I think there's so much riding on this game that emotionally and physically and adrenaline wise that you have to you have to navigate into this game, and that's something that you're trying to do there. So that's a lot of stuff going on with the 49ers to do this. I just think it's going to be a tough sledding for that team to get in here to this game, and I just don't know if they're going to show up on time to make this a competitive night. So I really like Kansas City in this game. I think, like, I just keep looking at San Francisco and thinking, okay, if they lose either Debo Samuel, who's already banged up, Christian McCaffrey, who is there, and you know who else is there, is your boy DJ Triggs. How about
Man, yo,
holy smokes,
I
he's
don't
here. Oh, he's back in the bunker.
I don't even know what I look like anymore. Yeah, I'm over in the right part of the basement
Okay,
being a weirdo.
that's okay. That's okay. Hey, you got the Sailor Moon poster behind you, so that's
That's
no
true.
debate. There
Yeah,
you go.
and bunny ears and all types
Oh,
of
oh
bunny
my.
weird stuff.
Oh
Yeah,
my.
it's all pink over here.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. That's good stuff. I like seeing that, and even noticed in college basketball, you got some of the women's teams sporting the pink outfits, so that's always cool. I like that.
That's true. I think that's
So,
usually breast cancer
yep,
awareness. Yep.
yeah. We usually see that in November. I don't know if they change it up and do something special for that, like in February. That could be a February thing too. But yeah, it's cool. It's good stuff seeing that.
Yeah. Oh man, it's been wild. Where should we begin, as Creed would say?
I know, and that's a cool thing that you bring that up because definitely had to sport some Star Wars gear tonight, especially with losing him a few days earlier last week. So yeah, it's a big loss, but really awesome actor, and I didn't really get to know him too much in the Creed series, but his character to me is definitely one of my favorites on The Mandalorian. Just seeing the
Oh,
way his character changed from being a ruthless villain to being a really cool leader, I guess, for a planet in a way, was a really cool way to guide that storyline, and he'll be missed.
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We're talking about Chubbs from Happy Gilmore or
exactly,
Apollo Creed. Yeah.
exactly.
Uh,
Carl Lewis, man, he's good.
yeah, totally. I didn't even know he was in The Mandalorian. I've never seen it. So,
Oh man, totally, man. Yeah, like seasons. I think there's been 3 seasons, but season one especially, he has a huge role in. He's basically the first contractor of the Mandalorian. He's the first boss that the Mandalorian hires for a job, and it's interesting to see how things don't really go that well, and then things change, and it's pretty remarkable.
I'm not a Star Wars guy, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Hey, I'm not the biggest Star Wars guy either, but I think the great thing of Star Wars is like the side stories, and this is clearly one of them. And The Mandalorian is the greatest series ever of Star Wars. So like this is probably their biggest grossing thing ever, I'm thinking. So it's pretty impressive, and like I mean he's part of the biggest trilogy that's not Star Wars in the Rocky series. He's
That's
part
true.
of this. He was in the NFL. He was drafted by the Raiders. Played
Wow.
for He was drafted by the Raiders. Ended up playing for the Chargers, and I thought I heard something like the Houston Oilers or the Tennessee Titans, something like that. But yeah, he played in the NFL. Didn't last that long, and then he got into acting. And they got into Happy Gilmore too.
Yeah. Oh man, that's wow. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. It's pretty wild story that he was in the NFL and then just knocked it out of the park acting. So really cool stuff. But yeah, just a lot of cool stuff happening right now, especially in the NFL with the Super Bowl and stuff. And that was kind of what I was talking about earlier is kind of how I see things are trending in a very good and positive direction for the Chiefs. And yet I think things are trending in a negative direction for the 49ers. And to be honest, this is the first Super Bowl for me that I've seen with the Kansas City Chiefs where I feel like them going in, that I think they are truly the better team going into the Super Bowl. The last 3 Super Bowls the Chiefs have been in, I have not thought that. But this one, to me, is completely different.
Yeah, that's the scary part. It's like their defense is super, super amazing right now.
Yep.
I mean, they shut down the Ravens with ease.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
offense is just humming along, doing its ho hum kind of thing. And
Yeah.
at a certain point, Patrick Mahomes is probably going to explode. And yeah,
I think
that's
this is it. Like
and
this is the worst defense that I think he's played against.
and San Francisco has been not very good.
They've been bad. They,
Like
they,
they should have lost to the Lions. They should have lost to the Packers. Like now
yeah,
you got a juggernaut coming in on a roll right now, and it's hard to stop a boulder coming downhill.
it is. And man, I just think like everything on Kansas City looks good. Like they all look healthy. Mahomes looks healthy. Kelsey's healthy. They've lost one edge rusher and they've lost one offensive lineman. But Pacheco will be ready to go. He's healthy. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he'll definitely be healthy as well. They're even talking Jerick McKinnon might actually play in this game.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
that guy he was something. Like,
Oh, he's a weapon. Total
yeah,
weapon. Like
definitely in the passing game and the running game.
yeah, I like he's a guy too. Like I know he's not he won't be Hall of Fame worthy like Frank Gore, but to me there's like a Frank Gore kind of sense about this guy where like wherever he's been, whether it was San Francisco, Minnesota, or Kansas City, he's just been a weapon everywhere. So
Yeah.
I'm really glad that he's doing it in Kansas City, and he is just a total added dimension that you can add to this offense that I think is a total game changer if they get him into the game. I think to me that's like having as many weapons on offense as San Francisco has if J Mac is able to play.
Yeah. And it's weird, but those weapons haven't even really, I mean, besides Christian McCaffrey, and this Kansas City team is pretty good against the run and wrapping up and tackling. So
Yep.
I don't know. Like San Francisco doesn't look that great.
They don't. I heard someone talk about it on Fox today. Like they were thinking, like, man, if the Ravens would have played another game before the Texans, would they have gone down? I kind of feel it like, man, if San Francisco didn't have that first round bye, would they have actually lost right out of the gates? Like, man, there is something with this team that doesn't look right. When it comes to analytics and what we want to do here at Db8 Sports, I feel like recency bias in like really like looking as far back as the last 3 games that a team has played, I think is incredibly important. Like I just think the most recent 3 games to me tell you a lot of what is going on in the now, as opposed to this super long and extrapolated look at a team when like you really got to identify when things are going right, or if they're not going right, then why. But if you can't understand the why, then knowing what's going on in a short-term basis can really open your eyes and say, whoa, something here is just not right. What is it?
Right. And that's the job of some of these coaches to figure that out. And I, I really don't know what it is. I know everyone wants to blame Brock Purdy, but I don't I don't even know what's happening with the defense. It's
Yeah.
tough. It's I mean, they've made it this far, and now to kind of crumble is pretty like remarkable.
It is. And to me, like the thing that really makes this to me lopsided in the way of Kansas City is I look at this as pretty much like the Green Bay game. And what was it like? Someone was saying something too about like how a certain team didn't have a good defense, but okay, let's call it for what it is that San Francisco's played against. Detroit has a really good front line. They stop the run, but they don't really have a great secondary. Green Bay is the opposite. They really give up yardage on the ground, but their secondary is top notch. Kansas City's great at both. They're not going to
Yeah.
let you run. They're not going to let you throw. So that's a massive problem. And against San Francisco, you can do anything. You can run against them. You can throw against them. They're even worse in the secondary. But lately, Aaron Jones, David Montgomery, and Jahmyr Gibbs have all ran all over the San Francisco 49ers with zero resistance.
Right. That's why it's perfect to get McKinnon back, and then that stable of running backs they got over there.
Yep.
Kansas City could light them up.
Absolutely. I love, and to me, like the hardest runner in the NFL right now is Isaiah Pacheco. That guy just runs angry. And I even heard too, like when Mahomes was seeing Isaiah Pacheco in practice in training camp, his rookie season, he said that like the way he runs, it's like the earth shakes. Like he's running so hard that like his feet are just causing pain to the earth. It's cool. Like I love seeing the way Pacheco runs now. And I think next season, I think the guy can really have a great year. But I think this game against San Francisco, I think it is like that is not what you want to see. You don't want to see another Aaron Jones go up against you. And they're getting another angry Aaron Jones runner this game.
Right. And yeah, that's the way to set them up. And then Mahomes and Kelsey hit them down the middle, and
Yep.
hopefully an MVS or someone catches the ball deep. That's a disaster waiting to happen.
It is. Like, I just don't think that secondary of San Francisco is that good. And to me, it just takes some of these teams that don't have the same kind of build as Kansas City does to like crumble. Like we saw Green Bay crumble, we saw Detroit crumble, and really neither of those teams really should have lost those games. But when we look at Kansas City, like they just annihilated Miami. Well, like let's call it what it is. Miami was not a good football team, just like you called out in the regular season. They weren't. Buffalo was a good team. Baltimore was a great team, and they shellacked both of them. I mean, Baltimore should have won that game, in all honesty, but they completely melted down, and it was from their own doing in a way. But the pressure, the suffocating ability of that defense that Kansas City has, that's truly what took care of the game against both Baltimore and Buffalo. And I think I think they're just going to be tons of problems against San Francisco. I mean, they have Christian McCaffrey, and that is truly a game changer. But I think about this in a way, too, that defense is so hard hitting and so intense and high flying with how Spagnuolo loads those packages and blitzes and whatnot. I also think it's not 100%. And honestly, if I were able to bet this somehow, as much as I don't hope it on anyone, I just don't think that the Niners get through this game 100% healthy with Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey. I think at least one of those five definitely goes down in this game.
Wow, that's a prop bet if I ever heard one.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, I don't know how that prop bet would be propositioned, I guess, but man, that is. I just feel like they need those guys. Like, they really need every single one of those guys to get through this game 100%, and especially if they lose a Deebo, Purdy, CMC, or Kittle, they're really up the creek. Like, they're really up the creek if they lose any of those four.
Agreed. I mean, Christian McCaffrey basically like strong armed them through the playoffs by himself.
Yeah,
it kind of sucked to watch him beat my own team, but like,
yeah,
there's literally nothing you can do about that guy.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, he's going to win it, but clearly the way he showed against Kansas City, when actually the coaching staff of the Ravens actually put him on his back, Lamar Jackson is not the MVP. He is not the most valuable offensive player in the NFL. Christian McCaffrey is clearly the most valuable offensive player in the NFL. Like, don't care about the stats. I really care about what you see in a game-to-game basis. And Christian McCaffrey is just insane. Lamar Jackson, like, we're really giving him MVP because it's a Heisman Award. It really is. At this point, the MVP of the NFL is truly the Heisman 2.0.
Right. And that's the problem is like, I mean, even just switching to the NBA, like that's what the MVP has become too, where it's like popularity contests or this, that, and the other. And it's like at a certain point, you just got to pick the best player who did the most for his team.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know.
I mean, even among the losing quarterbacks in the divisional round, not the conference round, but the divisional round, like, I can make a case for almost like 3 of those 4 are either outright better or just as good as Lamar Jackson right now. So if those divisional quarterbacks are right there, then if we're looking at the quarterback position in general, then in all honesty, Lamar is like 7 or 6, definitely not top 5, but he's in that top 10, like bottom half sort of. And I think that's what we really got to think about before you vote him for MVP. When you got guys like Christian McCaffrey, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, those guys are like assassins. And then to me, like the up and comers of like the CJ Strouds and the Jordan Love, to me, like they're in another league where it's like, whoa, there's something scary here. But when the Ravens, after the very start of the game, give Gus Edwards 15 yards out of the gate, and then he doesn't see the ball for until the second half, and Lamar Jackson is doing all of it on his arm, and he clearly can't do it, that's not an MVP, and that's not a game changer.
Wow.
That's no debate.
I can't. I mean, I don't want to argue that, but I mean, Lamar Jackson definitely will win the MVP. So I mean, that's
sure. Great.
Yeah, there's different guys that you can put in front of him, but yeah, I don't know how that'll work.
And everyone that won their respective NFL division, they all won a shirt and a cap. So right there, that and the MVP award. Congrats, you guys all win your good tokens of appreciation. So everyone enjoys a hat, a shirt, and a piece of hardware that says you did good.
Hey, I like hat and a shirt.
I do too, actually. That I think that's more respectable, and I think people like there should be something out there for like the teams that don't win, like the teams that win the Super Bowl, and the team that loses, they send that stuff like to nowhere, so no one sees that stuff ever again. I would actually love to see someone sport the losing team's shirt and cap one day. That would actually be really cool to see.
I'm trying to think that through.
I know.
Interesting.
I know.
Interesting.
So shirt and cap, I do appreciate that more than hardware. To be honest, that's no debate right there.
I
So,
mean, I've had some hardware in my day. I don't
oh
know.
yeah, oh me too, man. I'm with you on that. Like, there's some good hardware, but man, like when it comes to like really thinking who's up there and who's the best and whatnot, it's not necessarily the hardware. It's just seeing them do what they do on the court, on the grass, on whatever surface they're playing on. You just that, and you really don't think about the accolades. To be honest, you really think of like who's out there and who's just terrifying to play against. Like, I'll be honest, I really don't think of Aaron Rodgers and his 4 MVPs. I just think of Aaron Rodgers when he was playing at his best, of just being like terrifying to play against, and how smart he was, how big of an arm he was, that cannon, that speed, even the way he took off out of the pocket and stepped into the pocket. That to me is what defines greatness.
Yeah, wow. Wow, we're defining greatness now. I mean, greatness is
Truly.
like, it's a whole lot of different things with greatness. I mean, greatness can be a best player, singularly, best player for a team, can be the best team. Like,
it's like that Kobe Bryant, that Mamba mentality in a way.
Yeah, I mean, you can be a Mamba. Very few people can, though.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those things that you can't teach. It just comes out.
It does, exactly. And that's like that's what we talk about when we talk about like bona fide value and numbers when it comes to fantasy and stuff like that. That's what we really want to find, is we want to find those really bona fide numbers, those guys who are in a league that is so much further away, that is really representative of what they're doing on the field, that is so hard to get anywhere close to. And I just felt like too many times I would, well, to be honest, I watched at least half the Ravens games I watched this year, I fell asleep in. That to me tells me that something that they're doing isn't quite right. But like, man, there's got to be more to a team on offense than a big monstrous tight end, a flash and dash quarterback, and some no-name running backs. And to be honest, they have no wide receivers. They have Zay Flowers, who's a great young rookie, but it took him half the season to develop, and there's nobody else. There's nobody else beyond that. So, like, there's really no difference going into that conference championship game when it came to the talent on offense of Baltimore and the talent on offense on Kansas City. And really, you can probably even make the case that Kansas City had more on offense than Baltimore did. And that's for a team that even kind of went into that game with almost no running backs, in all honesty. Pacheco was banged up. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's on like witness protection, and J-Mac didn't exist.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't really think of it that much. But yeah, like, I think Baltimore was so scary on defense, and so that's kind of one of those things that kind of held them up. And then what Lamar did was icing on the cake.
Yeah. So was Kansas City. Their defense was just as good as Baltimore's. Like, it was pretty darn close, almost right up there with points, right up there with turnovers, just like being so stout on total defense and points. Like, they're really, really tight and really close to each other. And I brought this up earlier in the show too, and I know Baltimore is up there, but like, for me, when it came to like defenses that I saw, and I think the thing with Baltimore that you got going for them is like that pass rush and the linebacker core, and just being so solid in the middle of the field and up front, I think is what really shut them down. I've heard their secondary is kind of you can kind of deal with it. You can kind of attack it. But for me, I mean, the defenses two that I think of that are at the top that I think are up there with Kansas City, but to be honest, neither of them made the playoffs, and that's Las Vegas. And then I think the other team is actually cross conference in Minnesota. I think those two teams are really underrated. But when I think of teams that are like scary to play against on defense and how these teams and how like these young quarterbacks have played against them, well, we saw obviously Patrick Mahomes played really well 1 week against Vegas, and then the next time he played against Vegas, it didn't go so hot. But then seeing Jordan Love play incredibly well against that tough Minnesota defense at Minnesota, to me, that really speaks volumes that, like, hey, Minnesota, Vegas, Kansas City, and Baltimore, like, to me, those are, like, really your four, your Mount Rushmore of defenses right now in the NFL.
Man, you hit me on all this knowledge.
I am. I'm trying. That's no debate.
Who are the four top defenses in the NFL? I mean, you have to go Kansas City, Baltimore, and then where do you go after that?
Baltimore, and then after that, I go Minnesota and Vegas. I think towards the end of the season, Vegas is clearly at the top. I mean, they just didn't give up points. The only team that really scored on them was the Shane Steichen Colts offense, which Shane Steichen, man, that guy's a heck of a coordinator, and I definitely got more to talk about the Colts going into the offseason. But man, other than that, like, we shut down Minnesota, we shut down the Chargers, we shut down Mahomes, and we shut down the Broncos at the end of the season. I know that's not saying much, but that's pretty strong right there, dealing with all those teams. I mean, we shut down Mahomes, and we got a coach from the Chargers fired, and Minnesota scored 3 points against us. So,
wow,
like, that's pretty good, man. That's pretty good. And as good as San Francisco was, I just don't think Chase Young and Nick Bosa are like that scary. And I don't think, like, something with them is not right. And I think if we were to do a deep dive, if someone was actually really looking into the stats, maybe a little PFF deep dive on the games with that PFF Plus subscription, I really wonder what we're seeing from Nick Bosa and Chase Young over like the last 2 games, at least. If maybe even if it's showing before that, maybe a week 18 or a week 17 thing. Something to me between those two guys, it's not scary. I don't know what it is, but something between Chase Young and Nick Bosa, to me, is not hitting as hard as it should.
Man, wow. Like, you're hitting me from all the angles. I'm like, well, what do I think about the Super Bowl? What do I think about the Raiders? What do I think about the Ravens? I'm like, I haven't even thought about any of them in a while because the Green Bay Packers got put out, and now I'm sad.
I know, but I love that team. The direction of how they're moving, the way Gutekunst can manage that team going forward. I mean, that's like the infinity way of managing a football team now. Basically, all you got to do is pay a quarterback right now, front load that contract, lock him in for a long amount of time, and then you can pay everyone else. Like, it's perfect.
I hope it's that simple.
I know.
Like, there's like the NBA trade deadline is coming up in 2 days, so my head's been wrapped around that. There's been new coaches going on.
Also another head spinning thing, because I brought this up to another friend, is, man, I think the problems of the NBA would be solved by this. And we talked about this a while back, but I think this is something that you and we have to get with like NBA people, and we need to like spread the word, make this trend, make this go viral. I'm telling you, the NBA needs to shift the whole regular season. I like the plan, or was it the NBA Cup, that in regular season tournament that they played at the beginning of the season, is to have like literally scrap the whole regular season, but have these 2 out of 3 series for your regular season. When you win a 2 out of 3 series, that's all that is recorded and scored, and that counts towards your rankings. If they do that, they could literally build a structure that is basically similar to the NFL schedule. Take the NFL schedule and triple it and make 2 out of 3 out of that. That is exactly what the NBA needs to do. It will solve the problem of players intentionally resting. It solves this goofy angle of saying you have to play 65 games to win accolades in the NBA at the end of the season. Man, like 2 out of 3 would be so cool, because if you win your series early, you don't have to play that third game. That gives you more rest. And if you're at home, like everything works in your favor when you do a 2 out of 3. And then you can still have that cool in-season tournament and do something funky with that. I think that would be a total blast, and I hope we can get some momentum going with some kind of like 2 out of 3 NBA season.
Now you're coming at me with all the knowledge of the NBA.
Bam! Let's go.
My whole brain is exploding. No,
exactly.
I don't know. I'm not really a series guy, so like I like.
But that would help for the playoffs too.
Yeah, I know, but I like the one and done in the in-season tournament where it's just, hey, let's go to Vegas and play a game.
Yes, I like that. I do like that, but I hate it for the rest of the regular season. And it kind of hurts too, because if we look at baseball, Major League Baseball, they literally have that and they still don't do it. And that's even mind-blowing too. Like they could have a winner-take-all series is what gets credit, and they're not doing that. You want to increase viewership? Both of these leagues, that's what you do. That's flat out no debate. You do that, like now all of a sudden, like I have to watch these Boston-Miami series, at least game 2 and hopefully game 3. Like everything you make out of 2 out of 3 for the NBA, people are watching. Like outside of the Las Vegas NBA Cup, part of the NBA tournament, or at least the NBA regular season, I still have not watched a regular season basketball game. That and I know I'm not alone with that, man. Like it is bad. It is so bad how NBA viewership is going right now, man.
Not every game. I mean, they're doing their thing. They're just slowly but surely.
It's like I know, what was it earlier, or what was it last playoff season between the Celtics and the Heat had lower viewership than a women's college basketball game.
Oh, are you sure?
I am positive. I think that was the LSU. That would have been the LSU championship game against what was it, South Carolina? I think it was that. It was either that or it was a NBA, a WNBA game. But like the Celtics Heat was definitely outranked by a women's college or a women's professional basketball game. And to me, right there, that tells you the NBA has a clear problem with viewership. And when you have certain stars like sitting out, like, man, you want to see the stars play, and you want to see them go, like, you want to see them out there, and you want to see them giving their all. And like, not until like Greg Popovich started this with the Spurs did we ever see this happen.
That's true. That's true. I mean, he made it famous, and
he did.
Then he didn't want to take blame for it.
Oh yeah, you're getting all the blame, man. Like guys like you and me and anyone else older than us who follows the NBA, we all know it started with Greg Popovich. That's no debate.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, wow. On another debate, I hope that Doc doesn't do that to the Bucks, because oh man, we're already losing and people are jumping off the bandwagon and all types of nonsense. But I don't know. I'm okay with him.
I can't say that for a guy that decides that Dame Lillard down 3 should be inbounding a pass to Giannis to end a game with 3 seconds left. That's brutal, man. I mean, I was already jumped off the train before Doc Rivers got here. Man, you add in the guy who's the NBA Hall of Fame in losing series when up 3-1. Yeah, and Doc you trust, man. That's no debate. So, ugh,
Yeah. Oh man,
yeah,
I'm trying.
I know.
I do respect that like he has the ability to coach for the All-Star game and he's given that check to Griff. So I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, I think that's the way to do it. And I mean, I don't like the way that Adrian Griffin was let go. Bringing that back to the NFL, that to me, that is very reminiscent of like a Steve Wilkes. It's kind of reminiscent of Cliff Kingsbury in a way too. I just think some of these coaches are being let go. Even not Leslie Frazier, but the black coach that was the head coach of Detroit before
Caldwell.
Jim Caldwell. Yes, Jim Caldwell is one of those as well. I thought all three of those guys got let go way too early. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Steve Wilkes got canned twice in different cities in one season each, and I really dislike that. I mean, I'm glad Steve Wilkes is up in San Francisco, but that really sucks, man. And that's I don't get it, and the way Adrian Griffin was fired to me, I just don't think is right.
Yeah, that's that's the most you can do, I guess. I mean,
Yep.
just piecing it all together and hope for the best.
Exactly. So that's what we got. Just a few more things before we get out of here that I got with the Super Bowl, and I guess the thing to me that is interesting and really to me makes me really lean heavily towards Kansas City is I saw this today is that PFF dropped this stat that when it comes to like negative quarterback plays, like Patrick Mahomes led the regular season with only like 10% of his plays were considered negative or bad quarterbacking. In the playoffs, he actually took that number and cut it in half. So his negative plays in the playoffs are like 6%, even better. And when you look at Brock Purdy, he is actually leading the postseason, I think, with like 26% or more negative quarterback plays. He is
Wow.
by far the worst bad decision plays in the postseason that we have. And man, I think going up against that Kansas City defense, I think they're going to make that guy make some early mistakes. And I think Purdy's a good quarterback, to be honest, but I just think he needs more time to develop and get there. I think he's mobile. I think he's got poise. I think he has really good reads. But I mean, you're taking essentially a second year rookie kind of quarterback up against a Steve Spagnuolo defense that's going to bring the house and really make you panic like he did to Lamar Jackson. And that some guys are just not ready. They're just not cut out for that just yet. So I think Purdy really learns and benefits from this experience. But man, I think that stat from PFF is just an absolute game changer.
Okay. Okay. Well, what else you got?
We will. Well, the other thing I got um, is my bets. So with sports betting and all that, the way I am betting this game is I am betting the Chiefs. So I kind of made this like $200 ish parlay, and it's kind of like a hedge, but it's got positive progression. And what positive progression is, you'll see this in sports betting, you'll see it in stock market stuff, is basically if you have a certain strategy and you combine it, like multiple aspects of your strategy can hit and they work together and they work positively. They move together. Whereas a negative strategy can be something where basically you need like one thing to hit and it covers everything else, kind of. So in a way, I got a little bit of a hedge, but I do have positive stuff where if multiple things happen, they all make money. But the way I got this is if you take about $200 or units or however you want to distribute that, and play with the Chiefs outright winning, and then going with combinations of Isaiah Pacheco, Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Justin Watson. Any combination of two of those five hit, you get paid, and you at least cover what that bet is. So that's kind of what I'm playing with. The minimum bet, I think, of those is like $40. So for $40 or less, you can do some damage. So I know it's all in on the Chiefs, but you gotta pick someone,
Yeah, I mean that's a good way to make money if you think they're going to win and you hedge yourself on that side. Like, what? Why not?
Exactly. And when you have the defense of the Chiefs, but you have possibly the greatest quarterback that is in the NFL now in Patrick Mahomes, that it feels pretty good going into a football game with that.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I mean, ESPN wouldn't argue with you.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I know everyone wants to gush about Patrick Mahomes, but I'm kind of on the opposite of that. I have not really thought that well about Patrick Mahomes until, I guess, Christmas, to be honest, after he played against us, because I think after that, he's had some really big strides of improvement in his game. I know that's like, it's kind of absurd saying about that, about one of the best quarterbacks out there, but there really has been this cool sense of growth that I've seen with him. And in a way I've seen with Kelce as well. And I think the fact that, again, they made sure to go into this Super Bowl run getting 2 weeks off, but instead of week 1 of the postseason last year, they took off week 18 of the regular season, and now they get that other week off with the Super Bowl again. So it just shows like how smart this team is rolling into the postseason, and I just love what they got going for them.
Do you ever sit down and like think about like what you can do with like the money that you can make from like a Super Bowl win?
Yeah, if I do make the money from this, I am going to put that money aside. I got a few things I got to pay off, and then also invest. And I do have investments going on with ETFs, which we might have to do something with that someday, Triggs. But I am applying like fantasy football stuff into the stock market world with diversified ETFs among very well-established tech companies, and basically building those so that eventually you get dividends and you get paid off the dividends. You get paid more interest, kind of like a savings account. And just kind of making that money build and compound and grow and grow and grow. And that's what I want to do with the winnings.
Oh man, you went real technical. I meant like buy an island. No.
Oh, we ain't there yet. No. We are not there. Oh yeah. Not yet. One day though, Triggs. Well, one day when you and I got this thing cooking and rolling on all 8 cylinders, then we're going to Disneyland, or we're going to. We'll go to the Pro Bowl, as much as we dislike the Pro Bowl, but go to the Pro Bowl because it should be like a Comic-Con of the NFL, which it should be. Yeah, we could definitely do that, man. That would be enjoyable.
Nice.
There you go.
Hey, I'm down.
There you go. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
I have no idea. I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Yes. Take that, Marshawn Lynch. Take that. There you go. That's no debate. So for your boy, DJ Triggs, Marshawn Lynch, myself, Steve Metrics.
You forgot who you were for a second.
I did. I forgot, but I pulled it back. So we're good to go. We're fishing, but we're good. That's the hook. So and that's no debate.
Yeah.